Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Referral Exchange Networking's Business Success Fertilizer application. It isn't always easy to compete with the companies that are bigger than you and have greater resources. However, one advantage you can have is you can be smarter than they are. No one can tell you how much you can learn and how much of an expert and an asset you can be to your clients. That's why education is critical for small businesses, and that's why we at Referral Exchange strive to make you just a little bit smarter every week. So let's get right to it. There was a recent article in the gardening section of Reformation Acres that talked about why we need to pull weeds. Week after week, we talk about fertilizer. Well, this week, we're going to talk about weeding and why it's one of the most important things you can do for your business. Anyone who's done any gardening knows that weeding is seldom a job that we look forward to. It's hard, it's time consuming, and sometimes it's difficult to see the immediate results. But for a successful garden, you need to be able to recognize weeds when you see them and get rid of them. In a typical garden where you're growing edible crops, weeds compete for the very resources that your produce needs to be all that it can be. Sharing a meal with neighbors is one thing, but sharing your garden with weeds is something else. Weeds also compete with your vegetables, not only for nutrients, but for sunlight and for water. And the weeds seem to have the ability to grow with wild abandon, and they soon crowd out the more valuable selections. The more the weeds grow, the more they shade your other plants, and they restrict their growth or even choke them out entirely. And don't forget the water. When the weeds drink their fill, they leave less behind for your prized plants. Unless you live in wide open spaces and have a lot of land, most gardeners have limited space to grow their crops. Weeds and vegetables alike have what they call root zones, and they don't like to share their space. The more crowded the root zone, the more stressed and less healthy your crops become. And when stressed, your plants become more susceptible to pests and disease. Finally, the more the weeds proliferate, the harder it is to find your real crops. More than one gardener has lifted up a leaf to find that giant zucchini that they repeatedly overlooked. Now, it should be obvious where this is going. Our best customers are similar to the most healthy and prolific crops in our garden. We need to be able to quickly recognize friend from foe and focus on the profitable clients. Every business has limited resources. Time, money for marketing, and creativity are often in short supply, and you can't afford to waste them on the weeds. The longer you let your weedier customers grow in your patch, the more they'll overshadow your valuable clients, and the less time you'll have to shine your light on the true stars of your business, those customers who should have a prize seat at your table. Trying to keep every last customer or client happy is like trying to grow your weeds along with your tomatoes. Not only will it keep you stressed and short on resources, it'll make your business more susceptible to your competition. If your competition has figured out how to weed their patch better than you, they'll be in a better position to transplant your customers into their own plot. Now, don't get me wrong, some weeds are very pretty. Thistle, foxglove, knapweed, they're very attractive. If you're looking for money making crops, they have to go. The same can be said for that certain client who talks a good game and always promises to give great things to come. But after a few years and lots of wasted resources, it's time to pick them out and let someone else deal with them. The longer you go between weeding sessions, the more difficult it becomes. A single plant of lamb's quarter can have over 75,000 seeds. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn in my gardening career was to take weeding seriously and be ruthless. There shouldn't be any weeds in a fruitful garden or a successful business. So it may be time to get your hands dirty and start pulling some weeds. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you got something out of it. If you'd like to talk about anything you just heard, or you'd like to know how you can grow your business by joining a referral exchange networking chapter, or even starting your own, reach out to me at raustin.ehs@gmail.com. Oh, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, folks, as I said, that's it for this week. And next week, we'll have something new. Thanks a lot. And